Today we're making a white bean and beef stew. It's a stew I make again and again, really any time of year, not just in the winter, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So what we'll need to start off with is about 1 to 1.5 pounds of chuck roast. I have a really beautiful piece right here, and what I want to do is get this into about 3/4 inch cubes. We don't want them to be too big, otherwise the dish just becomes hard to eat. Now it's time to sear our beef. So I'll turn my stovetop on to medium-high heat here. Add a little olive oil. I also want to take the time to season the beef really, really well. You want to season every step of the way, and locking in a lot of flavor into that meat. What's important is that you don't want to crowd the pan. So make sure that there's plenty of space around each piece of beef so that it gets nice and browned. Once one side is brown, flip it over, transfer it to a plate, and do your other batch. Now that our beef is seared, let's go ahead and start adding the rest of our stew ingredients. So I'll put the onions in the pan, right in whatever residual beef fat there is. The onion will start to pick up some brown bits on the bottom of the pan from searing that beef. All right, while those are cooking, I have a few more things I want to add to this stew. We have 3 carrots and 4 cloves of garlic that we'll get in here. This is a good time to check our seasoning, add a little salt, and of course some pepper. This is the base of our recipe. Now let's add some big, bold flavors. Here I have paprika, cumin, coriander, and turmeric, and I'll add them right to the pan at this point. So really, the spices don't need that much time. We don't want to burn them. And we also, at this stage, will add about 1/3 cup of tomato paste. And just like with the spices, I want to get the tomato paste coated all over these vegetables. Once the tomato paste really starts sticking to the bottom of the pan, they'll add 1 cup of a dry white wine right into the pan here. Now what we'll do is scrape all of those brown bits that accumulated at the bottom of the pan and let the wine reduce by about 3/4. We don't want a wine flavor in this stew. You can absolutely use red wine, but I also think that since we're using white beans in this dish, the white wine pairs really nicely with that too. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. And then here's my secret ingredient to any stew that I make. It is anchovy paste. What the anchovy paste will do is add a really deep, robust flavor to the dish. It has an umami flavor, and it won't taste like seafood. It won't taste like anchovy. And before we add the beef back in, we'll add 1 quart of chicken stock. You can also use beef stock here, of course. And now we'll add our beef back in. Now I'll bring the stew to a simmer, cover it, cook it for an hour, check to see if the beef is falling apart. If not, I'll let it cook for another 20 or 30 minutes until it reaches that point, and then we're ready to serve. It's been about an hour and a half, and I've checked on our beef stew. The beef is definitely fall apart tender, which means that it is a great time to add our white beans. I like cannellinis because they are soft, but they do still tend to hold their shape. After the beans have simmered for about 15 minutes, this dish is ready to be served. I have a plate of fusilli pasta here, but any starch is a great base for this dish. Anything that'll soak up all of those wonderful tomatoey juices. So let's get some of this stew on here. And then we'll just finish it off with some fresh parsley. Beautiful white bean and beef stew. And now all that's left to do is eat.